Hi, I'm Joni Patry, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Well, today I want to talk about Mercury being in all 12 of the houses, what this would mean for you. And here is my book I wrote a long time ago called Astrology, the Divine Order of the Universe. It covers all of the houses and their meanings, plus it also does place all the planets through all the houses to get a better indication on how this all works. And I can't help but make reference for my textbook for my university, Eastern Astrology for Western Minds. If you want to take this to the next level, check out my book and check out my university. It is an amazing community of Vedic astrologers. My university is University of Vedic Astrology.com. And don't forget, go to my website and check out my new jewelry line that covers spirituality, and this is a mala, and on the end of it, it is amazing. It has a lotus with all 7 planets and a gemstone for each one. And I also have these earrings. These are the chakras, all 7 of the chakras as well. So I can really represent what I believe in by what I wear. And most of all, don't forget that these are for making affirmations and doing mantra work. So continuing on, Mercury, what does that mean when Mercury is in your first house? Well, Mercury is all about communications. Mercury is everything to do with how we learn, and it really is about how we think. Remember, the moon is the mind and consciousness, but Mercury is actually how we process that information, not necessarily the mind in and of itself like the moon is. The mind is Manas, the moon. But Mercury is how you think, how you process that information. And when Mercury is really strong, we have highly intelligent people, such as Mercury in Gemini or Mercury in Virgo. It's really high level intelligence. They think clearly, and they have the process of always being clear thinking and communicating. Remember, Mercury's communications. Actually, Mercury is everything that the third house is, because the third house is relative to the third sign, Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury. So when you take this planet, the mercurial energy of Mercury, Mercury also represents the trickster. And when I see Mercury in Gemini, many times I go, my God, you must have a great sense of humor, because in Greek mythology, it did deal with those that are the trickster, that can always think ahead, be cute, be funny, be witty. Mercury in Virgo can have a very dry sense of humor. But Mercury in and of itself is the messenger. It brings things to each other, connects people. It deals with, they had Hermes with the wings on his feet, and that was one of the symbols I think they used for the male industry and many of the industries that connect people. Remember, the word mercantile came from the word Mercury, because Mercury's all about sales too. People that can talk you into anything, buy anything. It's a salesperson. That's Mercury. And also Mercury deals with traveling and the travel industry. So does the third house. It deals with travel, particularly short distance travel. But let's go through, since now we kind of have a better feeling of what Mercury is all about. It has everything to do with how we think, how we communicate, how we learn. It's about learning and just really intelligence. So when you put Mercury in the houses, that's where the mind's going to go. That's what the thinking ability is going to be about. Mercury in the first house would make someone very bright and intelligent, somebody that's always a thinker, processing. And if you have Mercury in Virgo in the first house, that would be what we call a Bhadra Yoga. And that's when Mercury's in its own sign in an angular house. But the first house is you. It would be somebody that's highly intelligent, sharp, witty, intellect. That's strong. Mercury in the first house makes somebody always ready to learn something new, very curious, open-minded. And Mercury in Mercury in the first house can be so much about someone that always wants to be going places, moving about, because Mercury is that traveler. And another thing, when Mercury's in the first house, you will never look your age. You will always look younger, because remember, Mercury is like the perpetual Peter Pan. It's somebody that has a youthfulness, a young look, but sometimes they can kind of act too youthful. That's Mercury sometimes in the first house. So Mercury in the second house, your thoughts, your communications are what? About finances a lot. But another thing that this can mean, Mercury being in the second house, it's your communication. The second house is our voice, our speech. So when you put Mercury there, somebody can be a chatterbox. They talk all the time. They don't know when to stop. They're always talking, communicating, and they have good skills. It can even represent somebody that's very good with languages, Mercury in the second house. But they're very inventive and creative in terms of how to make money and finances with Mercury in the second house. And in childhood experiences, their family probably really pushed education and learning. That was important. So now let's look at Mercury in the third house. If you have Mercury in the third house, it's at home here because it's relative to the third house. It loves to be in the third house. So this expands all the more with the communication skills, with the writing, because the third house can deal with the written word, because it also rules the hands. So it can be the writer, but somebody that's very crafty, good with their hands, anything where even they could cut hair because they're very talented with using the hands, or they can draw well, or they can write well. Anything where there's a creative edge with the hands. I've even seen that golfers, because golf does use the hands and it's a very much of a finesse sport, Mercury in the third house. I think, Tiger Woods has this. So the third house is also the house of entertainers, performers. And Mercury here means this could even be a stand-up comedian. Third house deals with thinking ahead and learning, writing, school, education. Mercury here could be a teacher, somebody that loves to learn and loves to teach, but also loves to travel and are always going places. They could have siblings that are very sharp and bright because the third house rules siblings, particularly younger. Sometimes it can mean you're the youngest, depending on how strong Mercury actually is. So if you have Mercury in the fourth house, then your attention and what you're into is about the home and the family. Your mother really insisted when you were growing up that you get highly educated, or either there was a lot of reading and educational tools in the house. That was important. And Mercury also being in the fourth house can mean an intelligent mother that's well learned, or definitely is always reading. Whether or not they have a high level of education doesn't matter, but they're always about learning and reading, gathering information. And Mercury in the fourth house can also deal with our sense of security. Do we have a sense of security? How are you going to go about to achieve security? And I would think that you feel very secure by your intelligence, what you have to offer to give to the world. That's Mercury in the fourth house. So if you have Mercury in the fifth house, then this can mean you want to write a book. You're an author, or you're very creative in some other ways, and especially with business and an entrepreneur. You are quite the talker, quite the communicator. You can sell anything to anyone. And actually, Mercury in the third house, you're a salesperson as well, definitely. And in the fifth house, you can talk anyone into anything. And the fifth house is also our children, which could represent highly intellectual, intelligent children with Mercury being there. And children that travel are open-minded, always about their curiosity, curious, intelligent children. So Mercury in the 6th house. This could be that you're in a service industry. You love to learn and serve and help people. And also Mercury being here is you have great communications around the workplace and with your employees. So this is, and you will always be reading and learning more and more information about health and healing. So that is Mercury in the 6th house, always learning about health and counseling, wanting to do things to help people as a counselor, trying to give people guidance, coaching, helping, Mercury in the 6th house. Plus, don't forget that the 6th house deals with anything to do with pets, and you will probably have an interest in small animals, caring for them. But you will always be drawn to health, healing, and helping people, service. So when we look at Mercury in the 7th house, you search for a partner that's intelligent, somebody that you can really communicate with. By and large, that's the most important thing. Rather than looks, rather than wealth, you've got to be able to talk with them. You've got to be able to communicate. You've got to have an intelligent partner. They have to be on your level intellectually, or you will not be happy. Your partner may be younger than you. And if not, then they have a very youthful, young attitude towards life, and they will always look younger than their years. So when Mercury is in the 8th house deals with research and analysis, getting to the core and the bottom of things. And actually, Mercury is the only planet that doesn't lose strength in the 8th house. It actually picks up and gains strength in the 8th house. That's pretty remarkable. So it can deal with a person that deals with this deep prodding mind that can get to the core and the bottom of things. Don't forget the 8th house is also the house of metaphysics and spirituality. So getting to the core of understanding things on a deeper level with metaphysical sciences such as astrology. Mercury in the 8th house would be good for that. And Mercury in the 8th house can also deal with psychology for those that want to dig deep into psychological analysis to get to the core and the bottom of why and how people do the things they do. So the 8th house is also a house that can deal with deep, dark stuff and disgrace, humiliation, and secrets. Mercury there could be something that psychologically this person may have problems with dealing with certain things on a mental level. But for the most part, Mercury in the 8th house can do well and really does give this thinking mind a profound, deep quality that is not shallow. And, thinks in realms of depth. Why are we here? What's the meaning for life? Can even make one a medium where they can communicate with people even on the other side. So the 8th house can also deal with our deepest, darkest awareness and transformational qualities. So once again, this gives a person great depth when Mercury is in the 8th house. So let's talk about it if Mercury's in the 9th house. The 9th house is the house of spirituality and truth. And there's always a quest for learning, processing, reading, traveling to places that give a sense of meaning and purpose to life. It can also mean a deep emotional or mental, let's say more mental connection with the Father, that there's great communications and ability to connect on some level, but that's, other planets in the 9th house can temper it greatly. But generally, Mercury by itself would have something to do with connecting intellectually or communicating well with the father. But generally the sun's close to Mercury, and that doesn't fare that well in the 9th house, since the sun does rule the father, and the karaka and the house of that person is not necessarily great. So, but Mercury all by itself would give the ability to communicate well with the father. Plus it would make somebody want to be a teacher, someone that's constantly learning, somebody that's always perpetual student, reading, writing, teaching, traveling. But the 9th house deals with traveling to faraway places. And this is a person that loves that. Foreign travel, learning, always wanting to be connected to schools and learning. And this is a great placement for learning and teaching. So Mercury in the 10th house. This would revolve around a career that deals with learning, teaching, but it would also mean somebody that can talk to anyone around the career, the office. They are definitely salespeople, and whatever the 10th house, they could be good with computers and technology, because Mercury does open you up to those type of things. So Mercury in the 10th house would also give this ability to work well with your boss and companies. And probably because Mercury does deal with communications, it could deal with even a communications job, such as dealing with advertisement, dealing with technology, dealing with traveling. All of those things would be perfect for somebody that has Mercury in the 10th house. So if you have Mercury in the 11th house, you are a social butterfly. You love talking to people, connecting to people. You have many friends and connections. And probably if you have an older sibling, you can communicate quite well with them. There's some type of great thought processes that you can share ideas and connect with each other very well. And that's one of the things that you like to do with all of your friends, share ideas and be in charge of groups and organizations, such as learning facilities, things that promote learning more, education, schools. You can be in charge of promoting that, or organizing people, even being like in a job where you're able to work with like HR, human relations, where you're able to really connect and talk to the people and get to the bottoms, to find solutions to things around groups of people. So you will also be very inventive when it comes to finding and making money, because remember, Mercury is this inventive mind. The 11th house is great gains. So if Mercury's in the 12th house, you really need your time alone. You need to get away from the world and reflect and to go within. Mercury in the 12th house means you love your time alone, and you also love to travel the world, foreign places, all over the world. This is part of your journey. You love to learn about things in faraway places. And you may even find that you work possibly in some kind of facility like a hospital, or that you're into healing. Remember, the 6th as well as the 12th house can deal with an interest in healing and helping people, being in some type of service. But the 12th house can deal more with charitable organizations that help people. So this could be an interest that you want to really serve and help others that are in need, with Mercury being in the 12th house. The 12th house can also deal with losses, and there can be some fears with Mercury in the 12th house, fear of loss, fear of abandonment, things of that nature. Mercury in the 12th can also give you some very interesting dreams, because the 12th house deals with sleep and dreams. And I think you could come up with great ideas and information through your dreams. So with that, I think I've covered all 12 houses. Remember, once again, you can always go to my website to learn more about me, learn more about my healing gems and jewelry that I have on my website now. And another thing is, if you want to learn Vedic astrology, go to both my university website as well as my website. My website is galacticcenter.org. And my university website is universityofvedicastrology.com. Thank you.